world for the attract mode scroll here. Kammesennin immediately going to Bubble Man. LVCreed going for a little more standard start in Quick Man.
I believe, to answer your question, it looks like the country for made for use in this particular seed is Sweden. So that's actually kind of it's probably worth mentioning now, as we didn't mention this during the first game, but so the randomizer changes, everything that we mentioned during the first race. But it also does little touches like that, where it will change the opening crawl to different games or other famous references. The other night was a Star Wars Episode 4 actually opening crawl on there, and it has so it's nice little touches by Duckfist, the creator of the Mega Man 2 randomizer. So just wanted to point that out. There's all kinds of little fun things that that are changed in there that don't impact the gameplay, but are I guess you could say fun quality of life improvements.
Yeah, very true. I mean, Star Wars, I think was a game once or twice or about 14 different times that I can think of.
Actually, I think there were at least 2 on the NES alone, so absolutely, there have been plenty of Star Wars games, so yeah. I guess it still applies.
Very true. Kammesennin has a slightly different approach because he is a Buster-only runner. He will basically look at the select screen, look at whichever one is up, and if it's not Crash Man, that's the stage he's going to, without question. And then he looks to see where Crash Man is and waits to do that one for last. LVCreed is going through Quick Man and went through him very quickly.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting there that we see our first item, actually, item 2 awarded to Kammesennin. That's actually a good way to go about it, is that if you're playing Buster only and you look and you just can lock in on a particular stage you're starting with, and you basically don't care what it is as long as it's not Crash, and go up or whatever you're trying to use as your rules there, I guess, whatever stage you want to avoid. And speaking of stages to avoid, I really hope that Kammesennin is not having some flashbacks to a certain previous Heatman stage with these Sniper Joes and their mechs.
Well, luckily there's no pits to fall into, which, made it a lot easier to just kind of damage boost his way through that just absolute mess.
Yeah, even on a stage like Woodman, where there's it's relatively plain and there's not much going on, you could see how much those guys increase the lag. I know I've said it a couple of times, but one of the main enemies in a speedrun is lag, especially for these older NES titles, and you're always battling lag as an enemy almost, and that is certainly something that when you're doing these races, it's not a major player because you know that you're going to deal with it sometimes just because it's a randomizer, but it's not something you like just because it makes doing any of your inputs in your fighting a lot more difficult.
Oh, okay. It looks like we actually remembered it was a randomizer because we did have Quick Man at the end of the Quick Man stage, but looks like we have Heat Man at the end of LVCreed's second stage here.
It looks like Creed has discarded his Buster-only strats. He's done with those. He wants to get back to using all the fun weapons that he gets. And speaking of fun weapons, he gets an item 1 now, which will give him some abilities to zip in the future here, maybe. Possibly. One of the things that we didn't mention in the last seed, because it really wasn't used, is that item 1 is randomized, and in fact, you'll see here that it is randomized so that it stays in place. It does not rise. That is unique to the randomizer. Normally in vanilla Mega Man 2, it'll go up, and you know, it moves along as standard. But the randomizer can change how fast it goes up, how long it exists. It's static item 1 is the least useful for doing zips, unfortunately, but that's just the way that it works.
May not exactly stop some of the runners from pulling off the zips still, but you are right that it's much more difficult to pull off some of the zips with an item 1. The Heatman zip, I believe you could do it with item 3 a little easier,
yes.
So that's, you know, the ideal strategy, but you could do it with item 1 as well under normal circumstances.
Right. Item 1, you can use item 1 or item 3 to trigger quite a few zips throughout the stages. Item 1's a little easier in certain ways because you can use a B trigger to initiate the zips. To explain what that is to anybody who doesn't know, real quick though, we see Airman again here real quick. When you get stuck into the wall, when the item places you into the wall, what you do is you want to face left, but you have to do that while not moving. You can't start walking left. The game will just eject you. So a B trigger forces Mega Man to hold his pixel position, his horizontal pixel position, for a certain number of frames. So when you throw a weapon, any weapon that's thrown, Metal Blade or any other number of things, he'll hold in place, and you can trigger the zip. So item 1 makes that a little easier. Unfortunately, because the item 1 won't rise, you can't as easily get into walls. That's not true in the Clashman stage. You can actually use it to get a little bit, just a pixel of your head into the ceiling, and it'll zip you around, and you can zip there. But that's it's effectively pixel perfect. So it's pretty difficult.
That is definitely one of the ones I was going to mention that are much more difficult, but still possible. I'm not sure if the Woodman zip is still on the table. I believe that's another one that may be pixel perfect, but I'm not entirely certain.
You can actually use item 3 for the Woodman zip.
Okay,
I believe. I think you can. I've never tried that, but I'm almost positive you can. It's a similar thing to doing because the way that Mega Man works on ladders.
Okay.
Believe it's still functional there.
Oh, LVCreed taking a death on the Airman stage.
Unfortunately, it looks like those Metroids are immune to the Buster, which makes them especially troublesome for
yeah, they're
Creed
definitely going to be troublesome for kammesennin because he's going to have to navigate them without switching away from the Buster if he can help it. Usually, kammesennin will switch to the Flash Stopper before trying to use anything else if he's stuck in an area.
It's as close to as you can go to use without really using a weapon, as it doesn't generally do damage, or really it doesn't do damage to any of the regular enemies. So it's you're not dealing damage to enemies without your busters. So
I think it's one of those unwritten rules of the Buster only run, but looks like kammesennin was able to make quick work of Quickman as well, and we see Woodman at the end of the Airman stage.
Creed trying to see if wood hurts wood, and in this case it does not. Nor does metal, so it looks like he's going to just stand there and mash Woodman down.
I think he actually did score a hit, but I think the amount of damage it did, he tried to test if he could sneak inside of the shield with it, and it didn't work. So it was just not worth the time commitment compared to just going through the shield the normal way with the Buster.
Yeah, exactly. To answer a question from the chat, yes, the randomizer, there are different settings for it, but in this case, the randomizer is set up so that the stages are what you expect them to be, and the bosses and all of the enemies and damage tables and awarded weapons are all randomized.
Yeah, about the only thing that is not randomized is Item 2 and Item 3, because they're required to get through certain parts of the game. You know, namely the Wily stages. Item 1, however, is randomized, as we see with this run. LVCreed using Item 1 already, and it is stationary. It does not go upward at all. The basic layout of every stage is not randomized. However, the enemies certainly are. And as you mentioned before,
looks like we're going to get to Heatman's boss corridor. Our runners are pretty close to each other here, as Creed's going to be moving on to the boss corridor for Metal, as kammesennin meets to do battle with Crashman and Heatman stage. And Bubble Man lurks in Metal Man stage. And kammesennin makes pretty short work of Crashman there.
Ooh, that did some good damage. Like, the Metal Blade for LVCreed is quite effective against Bubble Man.
Alright, we get to see kammesennin deal with Airman stage, which will be interesting, again, as we said, being a Buster-only runner and having to Metroids that are immune to Buster.
Yeah, this might be the stage where kammesennin gets a little bad news. I think he might.
We mentioned the zip in Clashman stage earlier that requires a very precise placement for item 1, and Creed
nailed it.
And goes through. To answer another question from the chat, the bosses that are not immune to Buster are absolutely able to be killed by these runners. The question is not necessarily whether they can; it's more a question of whether the enemies are weak to Buster. The original 8 all are, but there are Wily stages where the bosses are not, where they can be straight immune to Buster, where shots just bounce off, so they have to use other weapons. So, otherwise, we saw Creed died. And we heard the familiar death animation, or the death audio. That was intentional, and doing so allowed him to skip ahead quite a bit. And he's making his way through the crash climb. Sorry.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate side effect of this particular zip, is that you're going to take a death, but I would trade a death for not having to deal with those 3 elevator screens, because they can be a flat-out nightmare. Just make sure you have more than 0 guys remaining when you go in and try to get this stage zip pulled off, because taking a game over by accident while pulling off the zip not an advisable strategy.
Looks like we have Woodman located in Airman's boss chamber.
Well, to clarify, I said this in the first game of this match. All of the Robot Masters are at least vulnerable to the Buster. The Buster is guaranteed to do 2 points of damage, and 4 of the bosses it will do 4 points of damage to.
Yeah, that was probably my my bad. When I often will use weak to mean that they can actually just take damage, but in that case, there will be 4 bosses starting that are weak to Buster, and then there will be 4 bosses that take 2 damage from Buster. Weak meaning that they take 4 damage from the Buster shot. So that's just the way that the basic layout of the randomizer is set up.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's a nitpicky kind of thing, but you know, I don't want to give off the wrong impression, as it were, with you know, making it sound like, oh well, the bosses are just trivialized by, you know, the Buster being the item of choice or the weapon of choice, because they're all weak to it, when it's not necessarily the case.
Right. So we have our second time through Flashman stage for this race. Kamesennen's going through it as Creed is approaching the... Looks like he's going to skip out on doing any kind of Woodman zip. I don't believe he's actually gotten the item 3 yet. That comes in Heatman stage. Looks like he's saving Heatman stage for last. So
LVCreed's going to have to hope for a drop here. I think, well, he does have 4 E-Tanks. I think he's waiting to get to either a checkpoint or a boss door, possibly, before popping it. Oh, there we go. Just kind of farm up the energy. That works too.
Kamesenin takes care of Heatman and is picks up the last of the 3 items. So he now has all 3 items, and he's making his way to the Crashman stage. Creed taking advantage of the item 2 to get through Woodman stage pretty quick. The last screen of Woodman stage pretty quickly.
That was actually very risky, because there was a Metal Crusher there, and getting hit by a Metal Crusher is hazardous to your health. I believe it does almost a third of the life bar worth of damage.
It's a significant portion of your health. It's definitely not a good place to be. We did not see this during Creed's portion of Clashman. He skipped it, but the elevator section is populated by these fanboys that make everything much more difficult. And unfortunately for Kamesenin, he's going to have to reset this room and try to get up there and take some shots at this fan guy in true blue fashion, because he'll effectively blow Mega Man off of that elevator. And as the elevator's moving to the right and he's being blown backwards, you cannot actually stay on it the entire time. So that's a rough spawn for the fanboys.
Well, he did get through it, so, you know, definitely a hurdle, but nowhere near as bad as the Game 1 Heatman stage.
No, certainly not. Creed here using his items to make relatively short work of Heatman stage. We were talking about possible zips earlier. This particular seed has Heatman stage as what grants you item 3. And because that is the case, and the item 1 does not rise, it's not possible to do the zip that is pretty common in the regular Heatman. The regular routing for Heatman would allow you to do a zip in the screen that Creed just finished off with item 2. So didn't get to see that, but he was able to go through the item 1s pretty quickly. So no harm, no foul for sure.
Yeah, unfortunately, if you get stuck with item 2 or item 3 being in Heatman, it definitely changes a fundamental part of how you have to approach this stage.
Creed looks like he's hunting for a weakness here on Crashman. It's always good to have those. It takes a few seconds to find them, but if you can find a weakness even relatively quickly, it comes in handy later on for when you get to the refights. You can burn through the refights especially quickly when you have the little bit of knowledge that what enemies are weak to what. So it costs a few seconds on the front end, but you kind of make it back on the back end. So
there is literally about a second difference between the runners right now, as they're both going into the Wily 1 stage. And just like game 1, we have a nice little game we like to play when the runners enter into the Wily 1 stage.
Ooh, this is some Iceman music, and from Mega Man 1, it looks like we have some like a blue and a purple, teal background almost, or not teal, blue, purple, or magenta maybe background here, which is pretty cool. But the color of the dragon, I'm gonna say blue this time. And I'm gonna say he's
feeling my blue, aren't you?
Oh, you know what? I feel like it would look. I feel like it would look in place on this particular run, and I'll say it's weak to Buster this time around.
Ooh. Well, being the troll I am, I'm gonna go with crash bombs for the weakness. I'm gonna, I'm kind of thinking this is gonna be a Barbie world where, we have like a purple dragon with a pink body.
Ooh, nice, pretty dragon. Let's see what we get. One of the features of the item 1s when they don't rise, if you're not comfortable or used to that, it can be a little tough to do this sequence that kammesennin's coming up on here. Just because you're used to them rising, so you kind of have a standard way that you throw these out. It's just one of the many things that change during a randomizer race that you have to be aware of. That the item 1s can, if they don't rise and you're not prepared for that, it can be a little tough. What color would you say that dragon is, Frico? It looks bluish to me, but it might just be my screen.
Well, the body's definitely bluish, but I think that's a... Now, see, on kammesennin's screen, it looks bluer than it does on LVCreed's, where it looks more, purplish. But, looks like the Quick Boomerang was our weapon of choice, as LVCreed finds it almost immediately, and oh no, kammesennin gets knocked off the middle block.
That's an unfortunate death. I can say that for me personally, the dragon is probably my least favorite boss in this game, just because you're trying to find a weakness for him while also dealing with the fact that it's a laggy sequence, and there are a lot of things that can kill you in one hit. If you kiss the dragon, he kills you in one hit, and if you fall into the pit, obviously that's one kill as well. So that's a brutal stretch, and it's also a punishing time loss as far as deaths go. So
yeah, I think it takes about 45 seconds to a minute just to get back to the fight, and kammesennin was not able to find any of the weapons that damaged the dragon, it looked like.
It looks like Creed's strategy for dragons is to try Buster and then immediately go to the boomerang, which is actually pretty... When you think about it, that actually makes a lot of sense, because if you find that if you're going to attack the... You're better off starting with weapons that you can effectively mash into him very heavily and burn his health down very quickly. And if it turns out that it's not one of those, you haven't really lost a lot of time. So that seems like a pretty smart set of routing that Creed does there. And while we were talking about that, kammesennin finishes the dragon, and Creed's working his way through Wily 2 here, making some clever jumping over those tin cans.
I believe he used a quick boomerang to break down the crash walls as well.
Yeah, it looked like the crash walls were determined to be weak to quick boomerangs, which is that's useful information that Creed now has, that kammesennin will have to wait to learn at the during the Boo Beam Trap fight.
Yeah, LVCreed's finding Airman to be at least mildly effective against the Picotan robot here.
Yeah, it looks like he's determined that the damage done by the air shooter just isn't quite enough, and it doesn't make a lot of sense to burn all of the air shooter energy. And he finds a better weakness in the metal blades and finishes the rest of Pika Pika Kun off there. Was not... It looked like during that stretch of time, kammesennin was able to make up a little bit of time. However, it's worth noting that part of that time gain was for Creed determining the weakness to the walls that kammesennin will eventually need to learn for himself as well. So,
well, one thing to note: kammesennin does not presently have any E-tanks, and I believe Creed has a full supply of 4 E-tanks, as we just see with him opening the inventory.
Ooh.
So that is definitely something that may need to be looked at going forward. Creed has a distinct item advantage with the 4 E-tanks.
Yeah, and again, one of the things that we've mentioned before doing a Buster-only run of this game, you are somewhat limited to the fact that if you find something that works, you have to continue to use it. And kammesennin finds that fully charged heat and air both work, and luckily was able to kill that last Pika Pika Kun before it was able to contact him. He was at a point where if he were to be hit there, it would have been the end of his life there, and would have set him back. So that's quite a bit of clutch play out of kammesennin right there for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's going to stop for at least one of the energy recharges, and as I say that, he drops straight down. I think LVCreed has found the Guts Dozer weakness.
Yeah, I believe it's the metal blade. It certainly looked like on my screen, although I might have that wrong. Let me take a quick look. Or no, maybe that's just the boomerang again. And I seem to have lost my my view here, so
yeah, unfortunately, I think we're in the dark, as it were, for the time being.
While that all happened, it looks like I'm just jumping over to the the actual restream, so my commentary is going to be a few seconds behind now. My apologies to everybody.
Yeah, I think I'm going to join you in that endeavor.
See, Creed is making his way. He's going to do some vertical zips here to avoid this spot with the spikes, which is a nice convenient thing if you can do it. And we see more. You see more of the Sniper Joes in there. More of the Sniper Joes there. So let's see if can get this back to.
Now, just to address a question in the chat, we actually use for the commentary a different screen than what you see on the Twitch. So that is why things are a little bit different on our side.
It's that way our commentary is matched up with what you're seeing on screen, and it's not quite as delayed is all. And we're back now, I believe. So good news for us. Now we get to see the Boo Beam Trap, and what you'll see Creed just did there is he switched immediately to wood. And the reason why you do that is because it basically means that you don't have to destroy as many of these walls. Wood and metal being directional allows you to shoot them in different directions. And so what Creed did there was he just neglected to even try to shoot the most of the doors and just took the weakness and burned right through them. It's pretty effective way to go about it when you get a directional weapon that can hurt the boo beams. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that was definitely a weakness to exploit by LVCreed there. Like you said, the metal blade will allow you to take out, I believe, 4 of the turrets without even bothering with the crash walls. With the way the leaf shield works as well, you can circumvent the crash walls entirely because you have the angles of the up and down shooting, and hopefully kammesennin will I'm actually surprised he didn't switch to one of the like the leaf shield to oh, now kammesennin's gonna oh, here we go. Now I think he just found that the leaf shield's working against the turrets.
It looks like he was just going in order, and once he got to the directional thing, he figured it was worth trying. However, trying to not use items as much as possible, he's still going to break down a few doors. It looks like he'll finish off the Boo Beam Trap and make his way to the refights that Creed is already, let's see here.
Halfway through?
A little more than halfway, just...
Wow, he's on his 7th Robot Master already. I thought he was on maybe his 4th or 5th, and again, I blinked and missed a couple of them.
Again, I think that's one of the values of learning, finding out the weaknesses in the early going, that it makes the refights all the more faster.
Yeah, you give up, 5 seconds or so when, you're searching for a weakness, but you get that back and then some in these refights because you know what weapon to go to and can just absolutely dumpster a robot like LVCreed did with Crashman.
And it looks like he determined the weakness for this first phase of the Wily machine, and he's going to refill some things so that he has them ready to go for the alien. The reason why that's actually a useful thing to do is the alien approach. The what do you call that?
Victory Road, as I like to call it.
Victory Road. Sats, I like that. I'm gonna have to start using that. I'll have to steal that from you if you don't mind my infringing on your trademark.
I will allow it.
What happens here is that the randomizer has added energy tank, or not energy tanks, but weapon energy pickups here on the left side of this screen. However, if you go get them, now you have to deal with these little dropping acid droplet things that are happening here. So what you want to do is you want to be as far to the right as you can as you're falling, and you can just walk straight through and you don't have to worry about them for an instant.
It looks like LVCreed is pretty well stocked. I don't think he'll shouldn't have too much trouble, especially with 3 E-tanks. If it's going to be anything, it's going to be, oh, wow. Found air shooter right off the bat.
And just absolutely murdered the hot pink-headed wily alien with a official SRL time of 35:54.
Yeah, get those GGs in the chat. It's official. LVCreed is going to take this match 2-0 over kammesennin. And it looks like kammesennin going to finish this one out. And now LVCreed is won a date with Metalo in the second round here. I think Metalo is probably one of the strongest runners in the field, so that'll definitely be a match we want to look out for. kammesennin will fall into the loser bracket, but it's okay. It's the final stage, so, even though he took a loss earlier in the qualifying round, the final bracket stage has been completely redrawn, and everybody was put back into the winner's bracket. So kammesennin will await the loser of the Stuff and Things and Talentless match. And Charlie Boy will await the loser of the LVCreed versus Metalo match in the second round.
All right, and we see kammesennin making his way to the hot pink alien. We'll see what he finds here. Gonna start with a few shots of Buster for sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Definitely the trademark. Gonna fire off a charged heat, and that's a negative. And oh, there we go. Found it.
That is a heck of a lot of damage with the air shooter. Just if you can get all 3 shots to contact the alien there, that melts that alien's face off pretty quick. That's for sure.
Yeah, kammesennin finished Game 2 with an official SR time of 37 minutes, 55 seconds. 2-minute difference in this particular game, but unfortunately, that's going to be it for this match, as LVCreed again takes this one down 2-0. I think we're going to try to get both of the runners in for a little interview.
Yeah, it's let's see, they were separated by almost exactly 2 minutes on SRL, but one of the things that was just pointed out in chat actually is that the dragon probably was the difference. Hello there, kammesennin. How's it going?
Yeah, it's going all right. How you doing?
Not too bad.
Well, so take us through. Well, I guess I don't want to say that. Do you think you're able to talk about Game 1 a little bit? It's perfectly okay if you want to completely forget that ever happened, all the same.
I don't think I'm going to have much choice but to forget about that one, but we could talk about it before I do.
Fair enough.
Just want to say hello to Creed, who also just joined us here in the commentary booth.
Hey, peoples.
How's it going? Congratulations.
Yeah, it was most certainly a thing.
I can definitely say from our bird's eye view that I would say Game 1's Heatman stage was quite difficult on both of you guys. Can I just ask the question and get your thoughts on that stage specifically from both of you? That was certainly a thing. I would have to say.
It shouldn't have been a thing, but yeah, that was a thing.
It was pretty much a moment where when you realized that he could not resemble Hell any further, you wind up finding out Hell is other Joes.
Well said. Very well said. Oh, it felt like it was nothing but luck to get out of there. You just had to get the right big health drops from their mechs.
Yeah, I'm pretty much just damage boosted them all and just popped in all the E-tanks that I had. Of course, by the first time I tried to get through, I almost got through, but I got sniped by Joe's bullet and fell off to the side before the big platform, the big jumps over the first major pit. Yeah, it was kind of rough.
Yeah, if I had any E-tanks, I probably would have made it through there a lot quicker. I just didn't have any coming through there, and like really, if I had one, I think I would have made it through.
I should have made it through with one, but like I said, a good Sniper Joe had to be the champion that day.
I mean, they are named Sniper Joe for a reason. They're able to that's what they do. They snipe you. So, I guess I don't know. Let's say kammesennin. Let's start with you and ask what do you think? Like what was your biggest hang up besides the Heatman stage in Game 1? What would you say the biggest challenge of this particular pair of randomizer races was?
Take your pick of any of the Wily bosses.
And how about you, Creed? Besides the aforementioned Hell Heat stage, it is very warm there. What would you say was the most difficult portion of these two runs for you?
Honestly, I really don't think that I had too much trouble, especially in the second seed. The first seed, I probably had to take things a little carefully because some of the enemy placement, I can't remember if it was the first seed or the second seed, that I definitely was yeah, it was the first seed because I was extremely cautious in air stage, especially with the first half being all the chickens. Even though they were one shot, if you take one bad move, one awkward movement, that's pretty much a chicken coming out from the sky and just pretty much decking you straight down to a pitfall. So it was pretty much a lot of careful movement. Other than that, I wish the items were a little more friendly on the second seed.
Yeah, not having the item 3 for Heatman definitely was a unwelcome surprise. Well, getting item 3 from the Heatman stage made it a little difficult to zip through there.
Well, fortunately, the enemy set really wasn't that bad. I mean, I believe the hermit crabs were one shot anyway, but you still had to go through the small little Yoku block section in the beginning, and you just pretty much, luckily I had item 1, so I didn't have to wait too long and I could just continue moving forward.
All right, now let's shift gears a little bit. Creed, you've got an opponent in the next round in Metalo. We expect quick and easy 2-0 for that race. What do you think?
If it's gonna be 2-0, it's probably gonna be on Metalo's end.
Oh, come on, a little bit of confidence here, huh?
Don't get me wrong. I'm gonna try the best I can. But Metalo is really, really dangerous. Probably the most dangerous opponent in this particular randomizer. The only one, at least in practice, has gone as low as a 31 in a rando seed. So that's a time that is really, really tough to get. I'm capable of making a 33. I have made 33s before, but that's still at least 2 minutes from Metalo's best. So that's gonna have to be, I'm gonna have to literally pull out all the stops, and I promise you, I am gonna be pulling out all the stops. Cause this was a match I was fearing. This was a match I was almost expecting to reach the inevitable that I'm gonna have to face this guy at some point. So now the time is here, and it's time to put up or shut up and put all the stuff I learned, all the stuff that I pretty much trained for offline, and then just go at it.
Well, hopefully it works out for you. I mean, I know you didn't visit the losers bracket in the qualifiers section, but Metalo, if I recall correctly, did find himself in the losers side, so you know, he can be beaten. Hopefully it ends up going in your favor when you two meet up later on.
We'll see. It's the luck of the randomizer after all.
Oh, that's very true. Now, kammesennin, you're going to have a little bit of a rough road of things getting sent to the losers bracket. Between Stuff and Things and Prodigy, is there anyone you would prefer to see as your next opponent between the two of them?
I'd probably rather go against Stuff and Things, to be honest.
So that'll have Prodigy moving all the way into the winners quarterfinals. Interesting.
That is I mean that. I mean at this stage though, honestly, I look at this bracket and I personally afraid of just about everybody. I think that any of those guys left can beat anybody on any given day at this point. So it hopefully at this point, you know, from a commentator standpoint, for me, I'm hoping for good races, and I think that that's pretty much all we should have left, really. You know, this was you know, it was 2-0, but you know, 2 minutes is not a long time in a randomizer, and it is, especially you know, with how difficult some of these seeds can be, and especially when you add, you know, extra degree of difficulty with Buster only in the first match for both of our runners, and in the second match for kammesennin specifically, it's really not a large portion of time at all. So it's pretty crazy how close some of these matches have been, for sure.
Oh yeah, one wrong step can definitely all but decide the match. kammesennin took a dragon death, and that's probably a good portion, if not all of, the 2 minute difference that we found the runners having at the end of Game 2.
Yeah, and again, that dragon is certainly one of my least favorite enemies to deal with in a randomizer. So.
Yeah, that's it's definitely a hurdle that trips up a runner here and there.
So, is there anything else that you guys, our runners, want to say here? I think we're kind of running on out of time on speed gaming here. So
we have plenty of time.
Plenty of time.
Oh, absolutely. We could have had a Game 3 here, you know? But, yeah, there's only so much we can really talk about here. But, you know, is there anything that either of you two would like to say before I think we get to the point where we're just going to shut it down for the night?
Well, personally, I would like to, of course, thank kammesennin for the race. It was pretty much fun to, even for one race, duel with one of the Buster only masters. Click, click, click.
Yeah, yeah. Kammesennin, you have anything to add? I see the green light, but
Yeah, I think something's wrong with kammesennin transmitting. Oh no.
Been beset by all manner of technical difficulties this evening. Luckily, I think that the runs were pretty entertaining to make up for some of the difficulty on myself and Freako's end. Hopefully for all you folk watching at home.
Yeah, I think
There we go.
Kame
I
may
think it's
have
working now.
pulled
There
a
he
little
is.
disappearing. Oh, there you are.
Sorry about that. I'm having a bit of trouble with my push to talk here.
That's all right. Well, the
Yeah,
floor is yours for a little bit, kammesennin. Go nuts. Say whatever you got to say. You'll let it out. Vent a little bit on that Heatman stage. Go nuts. The floor is yours.
I just wanted to say it was good races, man. I appreciate you going Buster only with me. Nobody's done that so far.
Yeah, like I said, like when I was going to the Discord, the actual tournament Discord, I wanted to pick it. Like I said, I wanted to pick your brain and see how at least one thing that kind of racked my mind, a small little thing that racked my mind about going Buster only, because I was entertaining the thought for quite a bit when this match came up. So I just thought, hey, why not just do at least one run? With, like I said, one of the Buster only masters and have a little fun at it, even if it would have cost me the race. I just wanted to do at least one.
Yeah, that was cool, and I was actually surprised in the first game that you had gotten done so soon. I think I was like just about to get into the refights or something. I expected that you had more trouble in heat stage, but I wasn't thinking that you had E-tanks. I'm sure we probably did a different stage order.
Yeah, what I've learned about Buster only is that, especially in randomizers, you're never guaranteed what enemy set that you got. Heatman is pretty much the standout example. So one of the things I tend to do is I always at least go to a stage that has the E-tank first. Even though that may take a few seconds, while you probably just go freely whatever stage that you want, I think having an E-tank in stages, but Buster only is much more important nowadays, especially for a randomizer. Thanks to the insanity that the enemies can bring, and Heatman, and like I said, Heatman just proves the point.
Yeah, that was not something I'd ever seen before. I'd never needed one in there. So it never crossed my mind until today.
Well, if there's nothing else from our two runners, congratulations to you, Creed, for moving on. And kammesennin, good luck in your next match. Best of luck to both of you.
Thank you.
And Freako, any last words before we sign off for the evening?
Well, I think we just got to run through our thank yous. First, I want to thank LVCreed and kammesennin for having a go at the randomizer tournament here. Without you two duking it out tonight, we'd have not much to talk about. Definitely want to thank you, Mad Mega, for joining me in the commentary booth.
Happy to do it.
The Speed Gaming Networks for hosting the tournament that we can stream everything with. Charlie Boy, I know he's probably disappeared, long gone from the chat, but this is his brainchild, and he's the one organizing this tournament. Of course, chat for pointing out all the things I get wrong and putting me to the coals for it. I think that's just about everything. Oh wait, no. We got to thank Duckfist for making the randomizer in the first place. That would be a minor thing to overlook that I don't think would sit too well with me.
And two more. The tracker didn't quite work today, but just shout outs to Daggett for making it, and Fiesel for helping getting it set up. Hope to have it for the next match. Again, we had some technical difficulties on our side, but I think the quality of the runs made up for that, as they want to do. So just thanks to those folk for making the viewer experience all the more better.
Yeah, absolutely. Unless you have anything, I think this is going to be it for us tonight.
That's all for me. Just good night, everybody. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. We have a match tomorrow. I believe it's at 8 p.m. Is that correct? Do you know off the top of your head?
I believe it's actually at 10 p.m. if I'm not
10 p.m.
Eastern time.
Let me
poke my head in there and check real quick.
I don't want to be giving out bad information.
Oh no! It's at 11:30. Past my bedtime. We will have Daggett versus Mega Kyle 83.
And that is at 11:30 p.m. Eastern time. So set your clocks. Make sure you're up for that one. It should be good between Daggett and Mega Kyle 83. So more Mega Man 2 randomizer action coming your way as soon as 24.5 hours from now.
Yeah, hopefully we'll be able to hold out that long. With the finals, the final bracket having 4 matches to be scheduled at a time, it's a little less likely to have a nice flurry of matches like we had, where about 8, 9, possibly 10 matches at a time could be scheduled. But, hey, once people start getting eliminated, it makes it a little more unique to have a run going on. So hopefully, as we move on, the matches will get better and better, and we can only hope for the best going forward.
Absolutely. So with that, sure to drop in tomorrow, and that race is the channel is yet undetermined, but should know at some point tomorrow. But so again, 24.5 hours away, and new race tomorrow. And thanks for coming by. Thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out. Thank you for commentating with me, Frika. Thank you, Creed and kammesennin, for the great races. And we hope to see everybody again in the future for more Mega Man 2 randomizer excitement.
Yeah, absolutely. Have a good night, everybody.